Hello malt mates, welcome to the Whiskey Bothy, welcome to Ralphie Review 1095, in which I am going to review a delightful, interesting, engaging and recommended whiskey. This is it. No drum rolls, we don't need them round the bothy. North Star 26-year-old blended Scotch whisky. This is an interesting bottle. Let me pour your dram and tell you why. Let's start with our bottle forensics. No box, no unnecessary wasteful extravagance, a large and engaging label which gives us genuine information, a practical dumpy flask bottle with a slightly larger cork and a slightly larger neck to the bottle. The cork is composite, which from my experience tends to last longer as a bottle seal over the years if you don't happen to be rushing to finish a whisky as good as this. Where's that steampunker? I want to tell you a little bit about it, just while the whisky's opening up here. It is a blended Scotch whisky, so not a single malt, and it says here in the label, mix of distilleries. So this could be a mix of 2 distilleries, 3 distilleries, 20 distillers, however many distilleries. But what we know is that it is a blend of single malt and grain because it's got the designation blended Scotch whisky, not blended malt whisky. And this means that the composition of whiskies in here, all made in Scotland by law, are from pot still, single malt, malted barley, and from mixed mash bill, column still, grain whisky. Probably dominated by corn or wheat, and there'll be a barley in there as well. This is bottle number 98 of 254 bottles. It has been bottled as a 26-year-old whisky. And already you're wondering, hey Ralphie, what's going with this single cask of blended whisky? Surely there's got to be more than one cask involved if it's a blend of whiskies. I'll come to that shortly. It says down the left-hand side of the label, distilled in April 1999, so this is a last century production, non-chill filtered, natural colour, refill butt. Now, you don't get bourbon butts, you get sherry butts. When it's refill, it can be second or third fill, but it's not first fill, it's refilled. This means that there is more liquor in the tub, well, the barrel, which means the surface to volume ratio is lower, which means that the contents will take longer to mature, right? And at 26 years of age, we should be looking at, as a result of using bigger casks, a bigger cask, we should be looking at a little more freshness, a little bit more youthful vitality in it. And it's also saying here, bottled, matured, distilled, matured and bottled in Scotland. Fantastic. Down the right hand column, and I'm going to read that as well, tasting notes knows it's inviting old chest of drawers and dunnage warehouses. Okay, right. Generalised, but it's quite entertaining and useful. It's a general pointer as to what to expect if you've got some experience. The palate, dark chocolate, cloves, nutmeg and chewy toffees. And the finish, we've got what hugs the taste buds, everything you want in an old blend. And it's bottled at 44.2%, and it was bottled in June 2025, and already it's selling quite fast. I'm going to come back to that probably in my next review, 1095 Extras, where I'm going to take bottle forensics to the next level. On the back of the label, it just basically says selected and bottled by the friendly folks at North Star Spirits Limited, Hacienda, and then it gives a postcode. Rightio. Every whisky bottler has a Hacienda somewhere, because in every office of every whisky business there is a lockable cabinet, and it contains opened bottles of whisky. So even the producers have their own stash, because nothing helps lubricate the wheels of business more than a wee dram of something tasty. And this would be a very worthy option. I've got one more important piece of information to tell you about this bottling, but I'm going to leave it till the end of the review. But when I declare this information, you will be absolutely clear about why I bought this bottling, because I don't generally review older whiskies, even older blended whiskies, because as official bottlings with a 26-year-old age statement, you'd be looking at what? At least £200, £300. If it was single malt at 26, my goodness, it's over £500 they're looking for now. There's still a substantial price premium applying to older whiskies under the pretext that there's less of it available and therefore there's more demand. That may or may not be true. However, I'll tell you what's true about this. When you roll, for rolling, the liquor around the inside of the glass and give it a nose, you do get a delightfully sherried, and you notice the sherry immediately, but it's integrated, it's soft, it's muscovado, brown, sugary, demerara style of interaction. It's delightful, the nose is as clean as a whistle, and importantly, we're most certainly getting the sense of age. In other words, prolonged cask influence in this whisky. If you were to put it under someone's nose and ask them which distillery it came from, you know, a bit of a leading and a loaded question, but hey, it's the games we maltsters play with one another. They'd go, oh my goodness, it must be a Speyside whisky. It's not immediately transparent on the nose that this is a blend at all, because it is so well blended, and I'm going to tell you why. When you've got, with some productions, and a lot of distillers do this, but they don't say much about it, they'll produce a batch of blended whisky and they make up the malts and the grain at the bottling plant, mix them together, and they'll put them back into the casks to marry together. What then happens is that the order comes in and it's for not as many bottles as they expected. So they're left with maybe about 5 or 6 barrels surplus to requirements, which are pre-blended, and they've got no plans to bottle it themselves because it's now too small a batch for a medium or a large size whisky company to bother about. So what are they going to do? They're just going to leave them sitting in their warehouse until the auditors come in or the accountant comes in and say, what are these casks still doing here after all these years? Look at this has been 26 years now. What are you going to do with them? And the idea is that the business will say, right, let's get the money in. Let's just sell these surplus casks to an independent bottler. And the independent bottlers that they will go to are the ones they trust, that square them up promptly, give them the money, and are reliable, that know how to look after and respect the whisky business. And this is a reputation that North Star has always had from the beginning. They've had a very good rapport with big companies, which has given them access to these barrel ends. And the barrel ends could be just one single barrel, it could be several barrels. It's then transported to the independent bottler's own warehouse, where they can supervise, manage and overview the further development of that cask. And then what they'll say to themselves is, we can't release all these, we've got, say, for example, Got 5 casks, but we can't release them all at once. We'll just do 1 cask at a time, and once it's sold, we can measure the demand and maybe put out a 27-year-old the following year. And this means that the small company with smaller resources and the one that needs the cash flow, because all businesses are about the cash flow. They're putting out whisky like North Star has done in a very classic and traditional style. And it goes in the shelves and it gets discovered very quickly by people like me. And we buy the bottle, and the reason that we buy the bottle, we're humming and hawing, and then we say those magic words that you say too every time you're in a specialist whisky shop. Say how much they're looking for. How much is it? £60 a bottle in Scotland. Now, let me put it to you this way. They could charge £100 at North Star and still sell that whisky. What are they doing selling a single cask pre-blended from a single barrel, a sherry butt, whisky at higher strength, 44.2%. So there's been some losses, right? Definitely quite a lot of losses actually over the years. So they can't leave it too much longer. So they're bottling it, they're putting it out there, and it's how many bottles, right? We've got 254 bottles. So if they give 4 or 6 bottles to each of their outlets through the distribution chain, it means these bottles for the price are going to sell relatively quickly, and in fact within 2 weeks' time the bottles have gone. They're sold out. But for the North Star Whisky Company, they're getting the money in. Excuse the pun, but I'm going to say it anyway. They're putting liquidity into their whisky business. Let's focus on the nose and the taste now. I've really set the scene for this, which is important to do. I don't want to just sit here and splash this whisky about and say, oh, it's all leathery and armchairs and, you know, it's kind of old pre-war overcoats and air raid shelter blankets and all that stuff. That's fine. But what have we really got here? I've not added any water. We have got a jobbing, so it's not absolutely spectacular, but it is very competent. It's very engaging. It's genuinely interesting. And the sense of the age, that 26 years is declared in the label, is coming through loud and clear. Nose, toffee, sherry, muscovado. A little bit of raisin in the background. You're getting the old leather armchairs type situation going on. You know, musty old country houses type thing. And on the flavour, gentle, soft, resinous, raisiny, substantial, impeccably blended Scotch whisky. Really, you cannot separate the grain from the malt. I think the malt's Glenrothes. That's just a personal opinion. There's just that malt tone about it with a touch of citrus. I think that's what it is. The grain is substantial and kind of sandy. There's kind of that natural sweetness you get from competent grain whisky, particularly from 1999. That's a good few years ago now. So we're tasting whisky that was made then, not that it's being made now. It's only now that it's being blended and, well, it's not been blended good any time over the last 26 years. But it's only being bottled now. And initially, soft, delightful, old age, but it's kind of suppressed. It's hesitant. It's almost as if even after my 6th pour with this whisky, It's still in hibernation. Old whiskies take time to open up. So I'm going to chase it out now with just under 5 millilitres of water from my impeccably accurate soda spoon. Now I've added the water. I'm going to have a look at the viscimmetry. That's the combining of the added water with the existing liquor. It's very thready, it's oily, it's very sinewy, which tells me that this has been an active cask for quite a long time, and there's a lot of energy come out the wood and wood oils along with it. So what have we got now on the nose? It's more citrus, it's more lively, it's more slightly delicate pineapple mint, fresh garden mint, you know, the mojito mint. The herb that grows like a weed, that's what mint is. Touch of slightly savoury, herbaceous notes. Again, you'd be struggled to identify whether it's the malt or the grain. It's really the fusion of the both over such a period of time. And you get this singularity of experience, the singularity of an old blend. I hope that's not too much of a contradiction. And it's delightful. It isn't a top-notch amazing whiskey, but at that price you wouldn't expect it to be. I'll tell you what it is. It's an honest delivery. It's an integrity bottling, honestly delivery, without fanfare and flannel and too much tarting up in terms of marketing. The marketing is completely subliminal. It is aimed directly at us, the informed whiskey drinker, and we'll find out about it when we go to the specialist whiskey retailer, and they will want to sell us some of this. And if we're lucky, they'll let us taste and try before we buy, and we'll be easily persuaded at the price. And furthermore, the retailer wants to sell us stuff, and if they know we've got a good palate, and if we know they know their stuff, then they're going to be straightforward with us. They're going to be honest with us. Always beware a whiskey shop where, particularly the weekend, you've got a bored university student just looking for a bit extra cash and on a bit of a bonus to sell the monthly special. These shops do exist. It's very easy to tune in and identify the specialist whiskey shop. They are out there, certainly in Britain, but they also exist in other countries. And the quality of the rapport that we build up with them, and even when they're charging a little bit more for the product, right, we'll pay the premium because of the value of the information they provide and the way they help us tune in and nail down and pay our money for better bottlings. It's what it's all about. Because as time goes on, the frustration of a bad bottling just gets worse and worse, and it can drive us away from whiskey altogether. Now, I've given this some water. I've given this a few minutes. Before I give my blend mark, sorry, not a malt mark, let's just have another final taste. The nose is softened slightly. This tells me that the taste now should be a bit more lively. You get this with old whiskies. Right enough. The arrival is more old oak and immediate sherry. Oloroso, without a doubt. Old school Oloroso. Not too sweet, not too flat. The development is competent. There's a little bit of malt in the background, but at this stage, it's the cask that's holding the conversation, not the individual whiskies making it up. And you will find that the malts tend to get quite suppressed because there is more weight in a grain whisky from a column still than there is in a malt whisky from a pot still. It's just the way it is. But now the challenge is, for us all, a minute in the glass for each year in the cask. I should be leaving that another half an hour, maybe have a sip after 15 minutes, and I will see things change. I will see the whisky evolving over time, a little bit faster, a little bit more dramatic, because I have added water, now I've tasted it, and as a tribute and to the quality of the maturation and the substance that the cask has given to the whisky, despite adding the water I have, it is still rich, substantial, and flavoursome. One final tasty note. Lemon and lime going on now, changing already. Beautiful sherry citrus sparkles off the top of the mouth with the development. The development is now taking greater shape. It's lasting longer. The finish, soft pickled ginger and stem ginger in sugar syrup. The pickled ginger dominates. It's tannic as well. Crisp, almost dry tannins into the finish. It's a little bit of mocha, a little bit of plain black chocolate into the finish. And it is thoroughly enjoyable, thoroughly delightful. And good luck, folks, getting a bottle of this. And I'll tell you why. It's a single cask bottling. Now, this means that there's a limited number of bottles out there distributed amongst a number of retailers who are on the roster. The consequence is that when a whisky like this does get identified as being good, it sells fast. This happens a lot with Scotch whiskies from the independent bottlers and from smaller distilleries that maybe we're not familiar with, we're not repeat buyers yet. And the consequence is that they go into the shop and they don't get noticed much. They tend to get overlooked because they're not familiar, they're not a known quantity. It's when they do get spotted, when people start to understand the value of it. It's not like the old days where it took months for people to latch on to it. It happens in seconds because of social media. A lot of whisky fans, a lot of malt faithful, love the bragging rights of saying, I've just got a bottle of this, look at the price, look at the quality, amazing, thumbs up, smiley face, emojis. Then they pop it out in the social media, they get attention, they get traction, they win bonus points because they've found something, and quite literally, within 5 to 10 minutes, the stock's sold out. The trick is, if we've missed this bottling, is to know when the next bottling's going to be coming along. Will it be later this year or next year? And the person who's best placed to advise you on that is the specialist retailer who wants to sell you the whisky. In the meantime, I'm giving this 84 out of 100. Not because it is a complex, groundbreakingly sophisticated, rare blend. Far from it. What it is honest. And I really like the fact that North Star haven't changed much over the years. They are still completely in touch with the original mission statement that made their reputation in the first place. And I think you should keep your eye out for North Star. I have a long association with this company from more or less when it started, actually. I've got 9 reviews on this channel, and also in review 722 back in April 2018, which is, oh my goodness, 8 years ago. I had an interview with the proprietor whilst we were bottling some whisky, because I really like what they do. And it's also, it speaks for itself. North Star has featured several times as a specialist Ralphie bottling. Once with an 11-year-old Glenrothes, bottled from a 10th anniversary, and also later on as a Bon Accord special bottling. Oh, gee, excuse me. Right, you're wrecking the place. Thank you very much. Won't be a minute. I thought you'd have been in sooner to cause trouble. Right, okay. You got to jump off the barrel, right? He's a smart cat. He knows not to jump up again. He's had his treat. He accepts his treat. He moves on. He doesn't spoil it for himself because he is a smart cookie and a barn cat with a very good nature, actually. That's all I have to say, folks. It's lovely seeing you again. Welcome. I mean, as always, welcome to the Whiskey Bothy, where I do my reviews. There's no sign of my reviews stopping, but I can tell you that an informal mission statement. There's some major whiskey brands that I just don't even want to review them anymore because I don't want to be giving you depressing news. And you will see me feature more and more independent bottlers and small distilleries, and I'm so glad they are there, and that the industry is not completely dominated 100%edly by corporations who, from where I'm sitting, with the excessive chill filtration and concoctioning of their brands, unfortunately, the whiskies are just simply becoming less and less interesting. And if they're less and less interesting, it means they're not worth the price, whatever the cost. Just saying.